Welcome to Spiritual Calisthenics. Christ is in our midst. On September 3rd, we commemorate St. Anthimus, Bishop of Nicomedea, our Holy Father Theoctistus and his fellow struggler Euthymius the Great, St. Polydorus the Martyr of New Ephesus, translation of the relics of St. Nectarius the Wonderworker, Bishop of Pentopolis, St. Chariton the Martyr, and St. Phoebe the Deaconess. Regarding St. Anthimus, Bishop of Nicomedea, after the death of 20,000 martyrs of Nicomedea, their bishop Anthimus fled to a certain village to care for his remaining flock. The Emperor Maximian sent men in search of him. When they found him, he promised to show Anthimus to them, but first took them in as guest, fed them, and only then made himself known to them. Amazed at his kindness, the soldiers promised him to tell Maximian that they had not found him. But Anthimus went willingly with them, and converted them by his admonitions, baptized them on the way. He boldly confessed his faith before Maximian, and after frightful tortures was beheaded in the year 303 or 304. As a sharer of the ways of successor to the throne of the apostles, O inspired of God, you found discipline to be a means of divine ascent and divine vision. Wherefore, having rightly divided the word of truth, you did also contest for the faith, even unto blood, O higher martyr Anthimus. Intercede with Christ our God, that our souls be saved. Among God's priests wast thou distinguished with fervor, and in completing well the course as a martyr, thou didst quench all the power of idolatry, for thou wast the champion of thy flock. Hence it crieth out unto thee now mystically, as it shows thee honor. Deliver us from perils by thy prayers, O godly-minded and glorious Anthimus. Regarding our Holy Father Theoctistus and his fellow struggler Euthymius the Great, Saint Theoctistus, a monk at the Palestinian Lavra of Faran, embraced a more severe life in the wilderness with his friend St. Euthymius the Great. They founded a monastery of which Theoctistus was the abbot, and reposed in deep old age at 451. With the rivers of your tears you have made the barren desert fertile. With sighs of sorrow from deep within you your labors have borne fruit 100-fold. By your miracles you have become a light, shining upon the world. O Theoctistus, our Holy Father, pray to Christ our God to save our souls. Thou didst preserve the dignity of thy soul free of every stain, which as God's creature thou wholly didst dedicate unto the Lord, O righteous one. Divinely enlightened, thou didst rise to the pinnacle of true godliness, O godly Theoctistus, confirming thy name in very deed. From St. Paul's second letter to the Corinthians. Brethren, the rendering of this service not only supplies the wants of the saints, but also overflows in many thanksgivings to God. So in other words, when we give of ourselves to our ministries, this doesn't only help the ministries, but it also helps us by giving glory and thanks to God. Under the test of this service, you will glorify God by your obedience in acknowledging the gospel of Christ, by generosity of your contribution for them and all others, while they long for you and pray for you, because of the surpassing grace of God in you. Thanks be to God for his inexpressible gift. I, Paul, myself entreat you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ. I, who am humble when face to face with you, but bold to you when I am away. I beg of you that when I am present, I may not have to show boldness with such confidence as I count on showing against some who suspect us of actions in worldly fashion. For though we live in the world, we are not carrying on a worldly war. For the weapons of our warfare are not worldly, but have divine power to destroy strongholds. In other words, Paul and those of the church are warring against demons, and demons try to come into the church and try to poison minds. And so the poisoned minds are trying to say that, oh, Paul and his ilk, they just want your money, they just want your goods, not realizing that Paul is purposely depriving himself of everything so that he might serve the people. We destroy arguments and every proud obstacle to the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ, being ready to punish every disobedience when your obedience is complete. Look at what is before your eyes. If anyone is confident that he is Christ, let him remind himself that as he is Christ, so are we. Because Christ humbled himself, Christ lowered himself to serve others, and that is what St. Paul is asking us to emulate. From the Gospel according to St. Mark. At that time, Jesus came to a home, and the crowd came together again, so that they could not even eat. And when his family heard it, they went out to seize him, for people were saying, he is beside himself. Scribes who came down from Jerusalem said, he is possessed by Beelzebul, and the prince of demons, he casts out demons. And he called to them and he said to them in parables, "How can Satan cast out Satan? If a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand." Many, of course, quote Abraham Lincoln in his address to Gettysburg, not realizing he was quoting Christ here. And if a house divided against itself, that house will not be able to stand. And if Satan has risen up against himself and is divided, he cannot stand, but is coming to an end. But no one can enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods, lest he first binds the strong man. Then indeed he may plunder his house. So in other words, Jesus Christ is stronger than the demons. He is able to come into the house of our soul and cast out the ruler of that house, the demons, so that we might be free again. I hope that you've enjoyed today's Spiritual Calisthenics. Have a blessed and wonderful day.